Welcome to the Moving Past You radio show, a show about identifying, confronting, and embracing the obstacles that block and delay us in walking in our divine purpose. Each week, we delve into the complexities and rewards of walking in your purpose. Now, here's your host, Juanita Gaynor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, gosh. So I know it's been a couple of weeks. We had some things. Last week was the holiday weekend. So it was just like, no, we're not going to come on and just, not mess up everyone's long weekend, but it was being considerate of others. But I'm so excited to be with everyone on this evening, especially as we continue on in this study of resting in his power. It's a 3-part study, and I can tell you that it's just been a blessing and it's just been amazing to me. So I hope that the next couple of sessions will be awesome for you as well. But of course, before I go into anything, I love to start with prayer, because prayer sets the tone. It sets the atmosphere. It shows, Lord, what I'm expecting, what we need from you. So join us in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you this evening for allowing us to come once again to teach your word, to reach those that are lost, to feed those that need to be fed. Decrease me as you increase, to give the people what is needed. And for those that are struggling right now, for those who are having challenges, for those who just can't see you, God, show that light to them. Show them that you're there. Show them that this is all not for naught. That is for your purpose, is for your will, and for your glory and their benefit. In your son's precious and holy name, amen. So thank you. Again, definitely always want to start off in prayer. Now, this week's sessions, our scriptures are going to be based coming out of the New American Standard Bible. But before we go into this week's lesson, let us kind of do a deep dive and just kind of do a recap on last week's session. Last week was when God calls you. And we came from Philippians, the 3rd chapter, 12 through verse 14, and the application text of 1 Peter, the 2nd chapter, the 9th and the 10th verse. And both of those were coming from the Message Bible. And it was 3 key aspects when we were talking about when God calls you. He's either going to position you just like he did Joshua. And when we say just like he did Joshua, when he positioned you, he was Moses' right-hand person. So therefore, he learned how to lead and to guide right under him. So when God puts you sometimes in connecting you with other people, he positions you so that when he calls you for leadership, you have had the knowledge and the toolage and the foundation so that you can lead. And then you have prodding, which is what he did to Moses. Because sometimes we have it within us and we have the skill set, but we just need that extra push. We need to, even though we come back at God with all of the, I can't do this, I can't do that, there's no way. He prods and he pushes us into the position we need to be. And finally, it was pulling. And it's what he did with Paul. It was just like, you know what, you may think you don't want to do this, but we're going to bring you on board. We're going to bring you along. You must do this. And at the end of the day, God's will is going to always be done. And at the end of the day, it's about obedience. It's about giving yourself of him so that the purpose can move forward. So that's how it flows into this week's lesson of walking in his purpose. So you cannot rest in his power unless you walk with his purpose. Now, most people will say, well, shouldn't that be in? No, with is a specific reason it was used in this particular topic. Both in and with are prepositions. Of course, now you hear the English geek in me. In is used as a function where it indicates inclusion or location. And with is used as a function word to indicate participate in, in an action or transaction or arrangement. So with this one, we're walking with his purpose. God is having us to be active participants in the purpose. He is having us to actively be a part of the purpose. We are instrumental in walking with him in this. So therefore, that is why it's with his purpose, because it's him that covers us. It's him that guides us. It's him that gives us everything that we need so that we can push and move forward. It is not within ourselves. And we think about it, if we are really in tune with God, we can walk through open doors knowing that he's done the heavy lifting. It's his, work that is done through us. And see, God is not going to lead us into failure. And I think that's what worries many people so many times, is that, God, I'm really not equipped for this. So I don't feel like I have everything that is needed to do this. But God never leads us into failure. We lead our own self into failure. But God, if we're obedient, never leads us into failure. If you read in the Word, he has provided endless eyewitness accounts of how God was able to use someone who didn't think they had what it took to be in that next elevation, and how he elevated them. He has tons of accounts of how the world had dismissed you and how he still elevated it to the next level, and how you were able to do extraordinary things through him. See, his spirit is going to make up the difference no matter what. If we're operating at 1%, he's bringing the other 99. If we're at 80%, he's bringing the other 20. God will always be the one to make us whole. Always the one to make us whole. He brings 110% every time to the game. He's coming into it with the mindset that he's completing it. And so therefore, we can never walk into we just don't have this. That's not how he operates. That's not how he moves. Just know that. See, the assurance from his word is that everything he's going to overshadow our shortcomings. Because see, when we operate in him, people see him. When we operate in ourselves, people see our shortcomings. People see that we may not be where they think it should be, or we even see our own shortcomings. But when we operate in him, you see God. You don't see that we feel like we're not enough, or we don't have enough education, or we don't have enough foreknowledge, or we don't have the degrees and the paper, the establishment, the money, the position. God is going to overshadow all of that because he is coming to the table. It's going to accomplish the outcome that he desires, but we have to follow his lead. See, our weakness only underscores God's power. It is always in our weakness he does great things. It is always when we just don't see how it's going to come to light or come to pass, he does great things. So why would we lean to our own understanding? Knowing that it's nothing that we can conjure up or manipulate. That's key. When working with God and walking in his power, with his power, through his power, you cannot manipulate or twist the outcome, because it's going to be what he says it's to be. Now, before we go a little bit deeper into that, let's go ahead and let's read the scriptures that will be the foundational text. Like I said, tonight's lesson is resting in his power, walking with his purpose. We are going to go to our foundational text, and that is going to be coming from Acts, the 2nd chapter and the 23rd verse. And again, we are reading the New American Standard Bible Translation on this evening. And it reads as such: "This man, delivered over by the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of God, you nailed to a cross by the hands of a godless man and put him to death." It'll all make sense. And our application text is going to be coming from Proverbs, the 19th chapter and the 21st verse. And it reads as such: many plans are in a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord will stand. The counsel of the Lord will stand. So basically, what that is saying is that, God already knows what you're thinking. God already knows how you're trying to maneuver and how you're trying to move and what you're trying to do. God knows that. So he's not going to allow you to interfere. He's not. But see, we have a hard time understanding what our purpose is or what we believe our purpose is to be. And so once you understand what your purpose is, you can move forward and go for it. Now, we have three points that we're going to discuss on this evening, how we can walk with his purpose. And the first one is God's purpose can't be undone. That supporting scripture is going to be coming from Job, the 42nd chapter and the 2nd verse. And it reads as such: I know you can do all things, that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Let's look at this in reference to the book of Job. I love the book of Job. And when you look at Job, Job had everything. He was highly blessed. He had, riches, land, friends, and everything. And the enemy was like, he only has those things because you've given it to him. He only serves you because of what you've given him. And God was like, well, have you considered him? Like, go for it. But you can't take his life. And see, sometimes what we don't understand is that we're wondering why we have trials and tribulations. Sometimes God has offered us up as a perfect sacrifice, as the one he knows that we're going to make it through. We think it's something that we've done wrong or anything, when it's really our time and trial. There's some things and some people around us that he is looking to maneuver out of the way. And sometimes he has to take us through these things. But it's also, I know for me, it was a lot of time of, it had to show me that I was not going to curse God. I was not going to turn my back on God. I was going to then buckle down and hunker down 1,000% because I knew my purpose was at stake. I knew what he had promised. I knew what he had showed. See, once God establishes his purpose in our lives, no one can change it. No one. I need you to hear that. When he established that in our lives, no one can change it. Now, we can defer it. We can try to circumvent it. We can try to do all of these other things, but no one can undo it. See, what door God has shut, no man can open, and what he has opened, no man can close. So many times God has closed doors for us, and we keep going back trying to open them. He's closed them for a reason. He has closed them for a reason. As the end of a season, an end of a chapter, and you need to move on. Yes, sometimes behind that door is loved ones and people that you miss and good friends, and because you're trying to bring everybody on. Let's be real. You're trying to bring everybody on the season. I get it. But they were closed. The door was closed for a reason. See, people will wear themselves out in an effort to make a situation turn out badly for you. See, God still ultimately accomplishes his plans. See, we have to take courage in that. 9 times out of 10, we are trying to fix something. We are trying to make somebody feel good. We are trying to circumvent whatever. We're trying to make sure someone else doesn't suffer. And when God steps in and says, no, this is done, I need you to move on here, where we delay in our own purpose and our own blessing is that we try to go back or circumvent what God has already ended. Stop putting commas where God has put a period. Stop putting, dashes and come back to and semicolons where he has put a period. A period is the end of something. It's done. It's finito. It is not to be added on to, went back to. You move on to the next thing that God has for you. And I know sometimes it's difficult because we feel that our purpose has to, make sure everyone is good and everyone is safe for a season. And I'm dealing with that now. It's hard to leave people behind as you think you are. And you really are not leaving them behind. It's just that they cannot go with you at this point in time. God had allocated a certain amount of time that those things would happen, would take place, transformation could happen. And now that time is over. And it's now time to move on to the next station. And so therefore, sometimes we get it and we let people go and we allow them to live their lives. But other times we still try to hold on. And have you ever had a bad breakup of a friendship or relationship and it was just ugly and you don't know why it was ugly? The reason why it was ugly was because we wouldn't let go. So therefore, God had to make it where it would be something that we never went back to. Never. He had to ensure that we would never go back to that. And once that happened, we're able to move forward. And then again, it's not that the person that we've had to leave behind won't eventually come on board. They just won't be able to come with you. So understand that you're not leaving somebody behind permanently. You're not leaving somebody behind forever. You're just leaving them behind at this point in time because they were not ready to go to the next level. They were not ready to be where God needs you to be. And you have to understand, you have to make that transition. You have to be obedient and make that transition because somebody is dependent on you doing so. Anytime you feel like, oh, I'm just going to lay back and I'm not going to do this and I'm going to wait, remember that there's someone dependent on you being obedient. There's someone dependent on you laying the foundation. So if you're still stuck at a particular place and you haven't continue to lay the foundation, they become stuck. Wherever you stop, they stop. So they're waiting for you to lay the foundation. If God says, okay, this brick, this part is done, I need you to move on to the next part. That's what you have to do. And trust that God is faithful and God is loving and God is going to do what he has said he is going to do. And he is going to make sure that those people come along. But it's not your job. Once he has ended that assignment, it's time to move on. So just know that whatever the purpose he is giving you, it can't be undone. I don't care what your mama say, your auntie and them, the elders, the bishops, when God has given you a purpose, it can't be undone. Now you should be aligned with a pastor, an apostolic head, a leader who can help cultivate that. But you got to seek God on that. You can't just jump in anyone's ministry and just think that, okay, whatever. Well, you can't just watch anyone's ministry and not commit to it and just think that all of these things are supposed to happen to you. I know I'm going to lose some people. I'm okay with that. But you just can't be a couch member and not participate with, tithes and offering and, your service. That all is a part of supporting a ministry, because when God gives a leader a word for his congregation, his or her congregation, a ministry, if you're not a part of that, you can't say, well, oh, I've watched on the show, on television, or I've watched on YouTube. Now, everyone with everything that's going on, there should be no excuse why no one's connected to an apostolic or, leadership head. There should be no reason. That's my opinion personally. Like, we should be connected. Because see, once you're connected and you're getting fed and God is talking to you and you're building and cultivating the purpose, you get confirmation, you get direction, you get covering. That is necessary. But just know again, God's purpose in your life cannot be undone. Let's go to point 2. God's purpose is one that lasts. And that's based Proverbs 19:21. It says, many plans are in a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord will stand. See, we got to understand something. Our lives, it's like vapor. We're going to come and go. However, God's purpose can be fulfilled throughout generations. I'm the prime example of, I know a lot of people see when I say one of my hashtags is I am the reassignment. And I am. When I was young and my mother, who is no longer here with us, was a heroin addict. But she had an anointing on her life that through pain and trials and tribulations that the enemy had leveled on her, she never fully could fulfill. And so therefore, the enemy has battled me from the time I was in the womb, from suffering my own abuse, from my own neglect. And it was just like he was finding any reason for me to tap out. See, he can't kill you, but he can do everything in his power to make you kill yourself. And some may be like, what do you mean? And I'm not necessarily talking about physically killing yourself. I'm talking about spiritually killing yourself. And it's what he tried to do to Job. It is what he tried to do to Job. He tried to get Job to curse God and die. And he used the people closest to him to do it. He took away, children and jewels and land and cattle. He took away what was material and what he thought was going to make Job turn against God. But see, Job had a heart for God, just like David did. Job had a heart for God, and under no circumstances was he going to turn away. Did he have his moments? Absolutely, we all do. But in his mind, failure was never an option for that. He could not fail. He was not going to fail, and he was not going to fail God. He knew that the God that had given him everything that he had before would give it to him again. And he stood firm in that. And yes, it was painful sometimes. And yes, you would see people turn their back on you. But it was a season of purging sometimes. Sometimes we have to see where people stand for real. Sometimes we have to be shown that they don't always have our back. You got to be shown that what they would do in seasons where they ain't got no money. You got to see all of that, because if they're only with you for what they think you have or for what you have or for the anointing that is on you, God will purge that out, especially when you're about to be elevated. So for many who is listening, live tonight or will be watching the replay or listening to the replay, it's hard because you're getting hit left and right. You don't know why this is going on. You think of everything that has happened this year and you know what God has promised you and you see it. And it's like you can see it off in the distance and you could just grab it. But everything is coming at you to block what God is going for you. And it's just like, it is a purging season. What happens when he is trying to extract something or someone, from you, they're holding on for dear life. Those demons are holding on for dear life because they know they have to go. And so they're trying to find a way to stay. They're trying to find a way to keep, the party going, and they can't. They cannot. See, we can set up our plans. We can set up everything that we want to do all the time. We can. I can't tell you how many times I done laid out this and laid out that and what I was supposed to have by a certain age and where I was supposed to be in life. But see, with those plans, I didn't seek God. So therefore, they didn't come to fruition because it wasn't all a part of what God was having. Isn't that amazing? If we don't seek him, we can find ourselves drifting into the ocean of problems. And, every plan should begin and end with him. Everything that we think about, that we plan, that we thought we were going to do. I did say thought we were going to do. Because I know me. I know that if I, decide to do this and that, and it'll all be good, and I'll try to maneuver this and put this way in and trying to make it all work and try to fix it. That is not what God wanted to do. Not at all. So we have to understand it, and we have to know that is not what God is. His purpose is going to last. Nothing can circumvent it. Just like it can't be undone, it's going to last. You want the purpose to live through you. You want to be obedient to execute the purpose that he has, because trust me, he will reassign it to someone. He will give it to someone else. That he will do. Don't get a misunderstanding of that, because he will do that. But that is why you have to be diligent. That is why you have to seek him. That is why under no circumstances should you shift or sway what God has for you in your life. We're going to go to point 3. Everyone is born with a purpose. Absolutely, everyone is born with a purpose. And we're coming from Proverbs, the 20th chapter and the 5th verse. And it says, a plan in the heart of a man is like a deep water, but a man of understanding draws it out. When you are obedient to God and when you are connected with him, you are going to hear his voice and you are going to take heed to what he has to say. See, we have to understand that we were all made in God's image. Each of us, every single one of us is born with a purpose and a calling that we can discover or completely miss. And there was a time I was trying to miss mine, because the way I was seeing it was like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this. I don't know where this is coming from. I didn't ask for all this. But see, we have to live by the influence of the Holy Spirit, and it gives us insight. And see, we have to find peace and courage when we sense the confirmation of the Spirit that we're in the right place at the right time of our designated calling. See, I know so many people says, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I was born to do. I don't know what it is. You have to get a relationship with God. Again, this is all predicated on relationship. We have to build that relationship. You have to cultivate it. You have to seek it. You can't just say, okay, I've gotten saved and it's it. I'm supposed to just drop from the sky. I used to think it too. I couldn't understand, like, well, why isn't certain things happening? Why can't I move this? And why isn't this going on? And things like that. Like, I so know what that feels like, because I thought that it was supposed to just magically happen, because no one ever told me that it didn't magically happen. However, I learned as I've gotten older that it's about consistent communication and relationship with God. It's about talking to him. It's about your prayer life. It's about reading your word. It's about seeking him, because you can't expect Becky, John, Mike, your homeboy, to just be like, here it is. That's not what's going to happen at all. Not at all. You have to be intentional about your relationship with him. Intentional. No other way. So if you think you're going to slick and slide and whatever, and I'm good, like my purpose is good, I got this, I got money, I got whatever. Let me help you understand something I don't think a lot of people get sometimes. You can be successful and wealthy, but not walking in your purpose and fulfilling your destiny. You can have the money, you can have the cars, you can have the house, you can have the prestige, you can be the CEO of $1 billion company, but that doesn't mean you are walking in your purpose and fulfilling your destiny. So we need to dispel that myth, because so many people think that I've made and I've arrived because I'm in corporate America and I can give my church and I can write my check, a church with all them zeros. That's nice. But how are you effectively making a change for the kingdom? How are you effectively destroying the enemy's ground? How are you building someone else up? If you can't answer that question, it doesn't matter how many zeros you can add to, some numbers to give to your church. You're still not walking in your destiny and fulfilling your purpose. It's just not happening. And I know some people are going to be upset. I'm okay with it. People are always upset with me. I'm used to that by now. But I don't care how many zeros you got. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how many houses you got, how many cars you got, how many times you can fly across the world, how many private jets you have. If you don't have a personal relationship with Christ, if you are not seeking him, if he is not the head of your life and he is not guiding you on how to do things, you're not walking in your purpose. You're not fulfilling your destiny. And then two, just because you do have those things, there's many ministers and pastors and church members who have those things and are fully and effectively living out their purpose and walking in their destiny. But see, we've become the, oh my God, you can't have money and serve God. That's a lie. He came to make sure that we had all of the stuff that we needed, but it's in serving him. It is in his ways are now our ways. His thoughts are now our thoughts. So when it said he will give you the desires of your heart, it means when you line up with his ways, his thoughts, his desires, then he can give you the desires of your heart because y'all want the same thing. He wants to prosper you. He wants you to be elevated. He wants you to have, the riches and things so that you can further the kingdom. But you have to have a relationship with him. You have to do it his way, not your way, his way. So you're thinking, how can I do this? How can I, begin the process to, living in my purpose and be, to do all of those things? Number one, the first thing you need to really do is to live authentically. You have to live authentically. See, one of the greatest challenges of that, when we have to deal with our call and our purpose is being you. Living authentically and being transparent. So many times, I know when I was coming up in ministry, young in the ministry, and I didn't know certain things, I always thought that if I made a mistake, I was forever doomed. That it didn't matter. Like I could never come back from it because that was the perception that was given. Oh, you made this mistake. Oh, you did that. It's a wrap. You can never be where you need to be. And that is not the truth. So in your walk with Christ, you have to be authentic you. You have to be transparent you. God created us uniquely. We're not all cut from the same cloth. We are made in his image, but we are all unique. And see, and it's our ability to live, out of authenticity and being genuine that will transform not only your life, but it will transform the life of others. Because people are yearning for authenticity. People are yearning for transparency. You have so many people who have so much to give and has so much to pour out, but they don't know that it was okay that they made that mistake and God still loves them and God still can use them. So we have to be able to live out our authentic and transparent selves. So once we begin living out our life and living in our purpose and being authentic, you have to stay focused. See, you have to remember that your peace and your favor and your prosperity are wrapped up in the fulfillment of your purpose. See, being busy does not equate living out your purpose. You have the busy syndrome. Oh, you just booked and busy, got this going on. But that doesn't mean, again, like I said earlier, just because you're wealthy and you're successful, it doesn't mean you're living out your purpose. And so the key to overcoming that desire to want to do it all and want to be in everything, to be all things to all people, consulting and, the things or whatever, what you have to do is you got to talk to God. He's the author and the finisher. You should be talking with him on what your schedule should be, where it should move, how you should do things. That's who you should be talking to. Because when you talk to him, when you get his approval and seek his guidance and he helps you lay it out, then it's easy to stay focused. It's easy to not be distracted by what is going on in the day to day. Because you're being obedient and you're listening to God. And see, staying focused is key. But see, this is one of the main things that I used to suffer from. Thank God I don't suffer from that anymore. But you have to learn how to value God's approval over others. I think that is the biggest thing for anyone who is, battling this, what their purpose is, because you want everyone to like you. You want them to embrace you. You want them to be like, yeah, I want the hoorahs and the yays, but if no one else is cheering you on, will you still serve him? If no one else is giving you the high fives, will you still serve him? Will you still walk the way he tells you to walk? Will you still do what he tells you to do? Sometimes you will not get the outward praise. Are you okay with that? Because see, when you do it in his time, when you wait for him to elevate you, then it works out so much better. When you value God's approval over others, then that is when you get into the sweet spot. Now, here's the thing. Yes, you're going to value God's approval over others, but sometimes, God sends you people and places and things that helps to guide that. It doesn't necessarily mean approval, but he's guiding you to the things that he needs to happen. And God always will tell you, what you need to do and how you need to do it. But see, when we get so wrapped up into what everyone else thinks we should do or how we should move, that's when it can become trickery. Now, sometimes he will move us in a way we don't necessarily want to move it. We still want to do our thing because we have a certain mindset of what was going on. We have a certain mindset of how it was supposed to go. And we don't want to change that. We want to, have it all in our head. We want to see everything. We want to be like, yay, it's all us. That is not what that's about. When he begins to move you and navigate you, and sometimes he changes up the plan on you. He's changed up the plan on me a whole lot of times. I'd be hot, ticked off. Be like, really? This is what we doing? This is how we doing this. And yes, people, I'm going to say this again. I know, and I've gotten messages in my inbox. Yes, me and God have that conversation. We talk I talk like that. And again, because your relationship with him is unique to you, he knows how to respond to me and vice versa. So sometimes I have to be like, so this is what we're doing. This is how we rolling. Really, God. Like, what did I do? And it is not that I did anything. It's not whatever. But sometimes there's a way he has to get my attention. There's a way that he has to shift me. He's got to shake up some things. He's got to expose people and situations and places to me to open my eyes and be like, ooh, I shouldn't do that. So his approval is everything. What he thinks, what he believes, what he wants for me is everything. Don't care. It's everything. And if you can't be okay with that, then you're going to be in a stagnant position. And see, finally, when we're talking about really, after you're living authentically, you're staying focused, you're valuing and trusting God's approval over all others, there's going to be a lot of times you got to fight for your purpose. See, living out our purpose in spite of the many challenges is a daily fight. You have to be willing to battle, your internal and external oppositions, that you face on a daily, continual basis as you strive to live the life that God has destined for you. No matter how hard things get in your life, refuse never to give up. That means, for me, my challenges is a lot of the time internally. The enemy likes to just, trick you in your mind, like, see, you let that person do that, and you believe that person, and how could you do that? Or wow, you was mean to that person, or you said you've elevated, and look at you. Last week, story time. Last week, I was in the farmer's market. Now, mind you, we know what's going on. COVID-19, the coronavirus, it is full-fledged. It is out there. Numbers are rising. And many would believe, like, well, if you're a believer, you shouldn't be fearful. You shouldn't be scared or whatever. I'll be honest. Sometimes I do get scared. Sometimes I do get frightened. And it's not because God is not who he say he is. It's because of these crazies in the street. Yes, I said crazies in the street. I did say it. Hey, you don't follow me on, I'm good. Who are not being considerate of others. Now, I'm considered an essential worker. I go into the office once a week, maximum twice. Depends on if I have to really, really go in there a second time. And, with the blessing of the car, God was had allowed me to purchase a car about 2 months ago, because just public transportation, it was getting crazy. Now, for most who don't know, and a lot of people who do know me, I am a chronic asthmatic. I have severe allergies and sinuses. And so therefore, I don't do a lot of stuff when pollen season and allergy season is out. I'm wearing a mask during that season. I'm taking off my clothes and washing my hands and washing my hair. I do that continually all the time anyways. So I don't do crowds naturally, because, the wrong person, cough on me or sneeze on me with a common cold, it can put me in a hospital. So I'm always been this, okay, do not breathe on me. And incident, went to farmer's market to pick up some stuff. And when people know I got to have my coffee. And, situation, lady, just one, wasn't social distancing, two, no mask on. It was just all in my personal space. And it was just like, even when you ask somebody nicely, I had to go back to that North Philly girl. And, and so I had posted it on Facebook, and someone hit me up and was like, oh, well, you're out there, trying to teach, people about God and whatever. And how dare you post that? And my response back to the person, it wasn't even nasty or negative. My response back was, well, why wouldn't I? Because that is how I felt. I said, that is the problem with the faith-based community. No one's talking about when they feel fearful, or when they feel scared, or when they have an issue, or when they are just not in 100%. There's a misconception that we always walk around, quoting scriptures, and that life does not affect us. And I'm here to dispel that myth, because it is a myth that has held a lot of people hostage. It's a myth that has gotten people to believe that because they made a mistake, they can never see God, they can never be used by him. And that is not the case. And so therefore, I'm going to post that, because somebody else is going to read that and be like, you know what, I felt the same way too. But I'm proud that I didn't go there. I'm proud that I didn't do what I would have done 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Do I still have those emotions? Yes, I did, because it was a critical thing. Because really, in essence, somebody just being selfish and careless could make me sick, and then it could be life threatening, and then it could affect other people and things like that. So it's a domino effect. And so for me, it wasn't even about being, the social distance, whatever. It was just about the lack of empathy and compassion that you have for your fellow human being, your fellow brother and sister. I know that I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I don't hurt somebody else. And if that's what I need to do, that's what I need to do. Like, again, I am blessed with transportation. I know many people are not. And trust me, it is hard to be with those masks. But I do what I have to do to protect those around me. And do I have frustrating moments? Absolutely. Do I feel like I want to revert back to that, that North Philly chick? Yes, I do. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because that is what God is using. That's who God is using. He is not using someone who ain't never been through nothing, who is perfect and who can whatever. He's using me. The girl was sexually abused from the age of 5 up until teenage years, who was physically abused, who's been through domestic violence, who has been through some things, who has been in the clink, who has been on the streets, about the streets, for the streets. That's who he's using. He's not using someone who ain't never done anything. He wants people who went through the same situation, or similar situations, to know that you don't have to stay in those positions. You don't have to be there. I have a purpose for you. You have been called for a purpose. So don't ever get it twisted that because of you've done something in the past, because you've been in jail, and because you've done this, that he can't use you. The only way he can't use you if you allow him not to. If you make a decision to walk away and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. Now, trust me, I've tried sometimes. His convincing game is tight. Okay? I mean, when I tell you it's tight. Because sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I ain't signed up for this. So many people be coming at you and they think that, you just think you're all that and whatever. I didn't sign up for this. This one was an assignment from birth. And so therefore, instead of choosing to run like I was doing for a long time, it's time to embrace it. It's time to move forward. It's time to be obedient. And I've seen how he has elevated the call, elevated my purpose, elevated where I'm positioned into from being obedient. Again, you're going to have your days. You're going to have days where you're going to be like, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. Deuces, I'm out. Forget this. Like, I ain't signed up for all of this. Like, this is crazy. You're going to have those moments. Don't beat yourself up about having those moments, because if you don't discuss that and identify that you're going to have those moments, then that's what's going to be the problem. You're not going to truly move and maneuver and walk where God wants you to be. But it's okay, because I want you to live your best and authentic life. I want you to have all that God has for you. And I'm going to tell you, the obedience is so much better than a sacrifice. I know a lot of people right now are struggling. A lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are saying, God, where are you? But the thing is, he's right here. We have to be willing to do the work. We have to be willing to do what he needs us to do to get to that next level. And a lot of the times we got to let go some people. We can't allow them to hold on to us anymore, because it's dead weight. You can't carry, you're going to have to leave that bag. You're going to have to go through that healing process from that childhood hurt and that childhood abuse. You're going to have to forgive that husband, that wife. You're going to have to forgive the mother of your children, the father of your children. You're going to have to go through that process, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to move forward. You're going to have to confess those unconfessed sins. You're going to have to give up those, relationships that have no use for you. You have to give them up. You can't keep beating yourself up for something that you just have no say so in, no go in. You can't do it to yourself. You must move forward. You have to let go. You have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you are loved and God has an immense, tremendous purpose for you. So let's recap. I want you to understand that God's purpose in your life can't be undone. It cannot be undone. No matter what you think, no matter what people try to tell you, no matter people how to move you, it cannot be undone. When God opens a door, it's opened. When he closes a door, it's closed. Remember that. I also want you to remember that his purpose is one that lasts. We will leave from here. We will do other things. We will pass on. But his purpose will last from generation to generation. It's going to be achieved, but it's going to be whether it's going to be with you or without you. It's going to last. I would rather it be with you. I would rather him succeed with you and not without you. And finally, I want you to know that everyone is born with purpose. That's right. Everyone is born with purpose. You'd be like, well, really? We are? We are. We are born with a purpose. We're born in love. God just knows everything that he has for us. And it's just like, I'm in awe if someone told me that 2020 was going to come in here and just take us for a roller coaster ride, I would have never believed you. If you told me that in 2020, I would have my car, I would begin to be nicely positioned to eventually purchase a house, that the show would be in its third season, that I would be finished up my book and about to do pre-sales for it so that it can launch in October, that we would still be doing this amazing TEDx event that will be a virtual event in September, and we're still pushing that forward, that I would have other opportunities and other businesses that are coming to fruition right before my very eyes. I would have never believed you. Not because I didn't trust God, it was because I didn't see that happening. All I saw was I was doing what he told me I needed to do. I was moving how he was telling me I needed to move. That's what I was doing. Nothing more. I was seeking him. I was checking on him. I was making sure that whatever it was, he was the author and finisher of it. And because of that, because he's laid that foundation and those seeds have been planted and they've grown and it's about time of harvest, I'm enjoying that. And I want you to enjoy that too. I want you to realize that God has the most amazing thing for you. The most amazing thing for you. As we close on this evening, as we close, next week we will wrap up this series of resting in his power. And we will be talking next week about the glory is his. We talk about everything else and we talk about whatever, but at the end of the day, everything that he has for us, he gets the ultimate glory. It is always for his glory, our good and our benefit. So I cannot wait for you to join us on next week. Thank you for joining us this evening for walking with his purpose, resting in his power. Know that you can only rest in his power when you answer the call, when you walk with his purpose, and finally, when you allow him to get the glory, when it's all his. Thank you. We'll see you on next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening and a great weekend. Be blessed. Have a great one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Moving Past You radio show. Make sure to visit our website at www.movingpastyou.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes. If you found value in the show, rate us on iTunes or simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for our next episode. And remember to always be kind in your word, your thought, and in your deed. Be blessed.